Welcome to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. This is where you're going to discover how to bring awakening into the body and into everyday life through powerful tantric teachings. Get ready to release, open and step into your true power.
As well as power being associated with status and money and power over and politicians and anyone who's in these obvious positions of having more, control over elements of life. There's also this association with power as being, and that's part of power. But without the vulnerability, it actually really goes into shadow and often turns into aggression and power over. So often what we see most of in the world, because there's such a discrepancy between the internal and what we're showing based on what we've been told is okay and not okay, is people who are either on the top layer of their being, which is an extreme sensitivity relative to the way they were brought up, or an extreme I've got this, right? And this kind of polarity is the same polarity that I see when I'm working with a client who, when I activate their emotional body, they either go straight into tears and into the insecurity and into the more depressive, what could sometimes be victim, grief, I don't want to be here anymore in some way, energy, right? And it's all valid, but it's the top layer. And often for those people to come into their power, they have to feel their rage and their anger. But for people like me and Devon, the top layer is often the strength, and the first emotional response is anger and protection. But as you could see, what was underneath that, as soon as she was held in a deeper space, was this unbelievable vulnerability. So power is the capacity to be where we are genuinely and authentically at, and allow the internal emotional state to be felt as deeply as possible, and for that to direct the movement of our being and the expression of our being. And sometimes it's really hard to hold that in ourselves, right? So if you can imagine if two people were stuck in a room and it was locked and they couldn't get out all day. Now, if there was no one able to hold a container of spaciousness and deep listening, probably they would just go back and forth in the mind and just say they were a couple, right? Or two people who had a charge. Then, because they've got a whole day of just sitting with each other, and trust me, during COVID, I had more fucking couple sessions than you could poke a stick at, and couples contacting me because they could no longer run away from each other, right? If there was a couple in there and none had the capacity to hold space, all of the resentments would come out, and all of the bickering and who's right and who's wrong eventually would come to the surface, right? Because there's no avoiding that. However, one person would probably end up becoming the listener. And if they didn't, they'd probably kill each other. And when that one person became the listener, then the other person would have an opportunity to empty their well and get it all out, right? Until the truth came out, until the jewels come out. Who's experienced being really angry and then someone's just holding a space of deep listening and then you're able to contact the vulnerability? And who's experienced the other way, where you're really upset and someone's been able to hold such a strong space that you end up going, you know what, I'm fucking pissed off here, right? So again, the top layer, the conscious layer, that's not it. It's what is underneath that, and what is underneath that, and what is underneath that. And if we take that duality of, let's say, the singer and the listener, and the singer is a metaphor for whoever is sharing. The quality of the song is always going to depend on the quality of the listener. So with Matisse, I've reached deeper places of vulnerability than anyone in my entire life because the quality of his listening and presence is so deep. And then that supports my own masculine to be able to hold that for me. And that's always an important piece, is put yourself in a fucking room. Sit with yourself. That's true power. Is sitting with yourself and going beneath the layers until you feel the depth of truth that is in here, and you can actually share that truth with others. And there is a quality of spirit that is always connected to that truth. And there is a quality of spirit that is always with you and that is holding you. So in the darkest moments, even when you feel alone, actually part of being a powerful person is knowing that you are never alone, that you are the source from which you came, and that eternal spirit that is you and the eternal spirit that weaves the fabric of existence is here, and it's safe for you to drop. And that's not always easy, and that's why we need the support of our community, and we need the song to remind us who we are, and we need to gather, and we need to sing together and gather around fires together and feel the collective prayer of sharing pain and sharing pleasure. So the first thing I want to do is rewire your association with power. Because was her vulnerability not one of the fucking most powerful moments you've ever experienced? That's power, right? And yes, we need the power and the strength of our will and our voice and our courage and our boundaries, which is like what you felt this morning. And I certainly don't need any of that to feel my power. I got that in bucket loads, right? What I need to feel my true power is the deeper vulnerability. And again, to use Matisse as an example, there's been no man powerful enough for me to submit into my feminine fully and completely. My ex got close sometimes, at times, but in this relationship, I've really had no choice, and that's not just because of the power of his masculine listening, it's because of the power of his vulnerability that speaks truth to me and that can tell me and share with me where I'm not loving him, not through shaming, not through analysis, not through the mind, but in the simple truth of his being that has very few words, and that will just say, that really hurt. And there is so much more power in those 3 words than you're doing this and you're doing that and blah, 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 and I'm getting triggered because my mum loved me unconditionally and you're not loving me unconditionally. My dad did this and this and this and da-da-da. That really hurt me. Or he'll say, that doesn't feel right for me. That doesn't feel good for me. I need you to speak to me with love. And so what does that come from? That comes from being present to what's here. So there's a space of being so present and listening so deeply to your own being, which is why he can listen so deeply to my being, that allows the truth to unfold. So everyone take a deep breath. And so imagine what your life would look like if, rather than the focus being on your audience, whether you're writing a post, whether you're speaking to a friend, whether you're speaking to your beloved, whether you're speaking to your children, rather than your expression being focused on how they're going to react, your expression was focused on truth and trusting truth. And actually trusting that their soul is with you because they want the truth of who you are, not the bullshit of who you are. And that if you're in your own integrity and you're trusting who you are and you're validating your experience, you're actually not going to have any issues expressing when you've already held that within yourself. So true power is being with the different layers of the emotional body and staying with them with enough loving presence that you contact a truth that is beyond the first nervous system response or the trigger. What if every time you got triggered, you turned your attention inward, and rather than defending, protecting, blaming, shaming, having a story about the other person, you were able to be self-responsible, responsible meaning responsibility, the ability to respond from a place of actually coming to know why you're getting so triggered about this situation. Because when you're getting triggered, there's usually three options. One, the person's speaking truth and you don't want to fucking hear it. People who are closest to you are like an objective teacher that unclouds your own narcissistic subjectivity. It's kind of like if you could magically step out of your life and watch yourself like you watch a movie, you would see the truth. And would you go like this? Oh, fuck, did I really do that? Oh, like, would you feel you? Would you see yourself? How would you see yourself? But it's very hard to do that, right? We try to be objective, but then we have this gift of our children, of our partner, of our parents, the people who trigger us the most, that they can see what's otherwise in our blind spot. You want to do shadow work? Start fucking listening to the people who love you. Instead of defending and protecting and making excuses and blaming some external person or energy or environment for how you feel. Now, the second part of that, so that you don't go into spiritual bypass and take over self-responsibility, which is definitely what I used to do, is that there is another option that someone's triggering you because they're overstepping your boundaries. And you are feeling a fight or flight response in your body because actually you need to get away from this person or you need to say no to this person, and there needs to be a bit of fight in that. And there needs to be some autonomy in choosing not to be in a situation that isn't loving. But when you're setting boundaries from a place of knowing yourself, even though those boundaries might be assertive, you'll be able to be reasonably relaxed when you're setting them. You won't have to go on and on and on. You would just be like, this isn't okay. I need to shift the conversation now, or I don't want to keep having this conversation. That's a boundary I often have to set. I'm not interested in having conversations with people when all we're going to do is spiral into the past. It's like, okay, I'm interested in moving forward here. I'm interested in speaking about what we need right now and how we're feeling, or I don't want to continue having this conversation. And one of us always has that capacity where the other one doesn't. It's like, this isn't going anywhere. And when you're actually in a relationship where two people are taking self-responsibility, the beauty of that is that one can take one for the team when the other one's in too much story and too much fucked upness, right? And you may all want to make it a non-negotiable that your partner has the capacity for self-reflection and self-responsibility. Because once you're on this path, if you're not with someone who can do that, it is very fucking difficult. You end up always holding space for them. You end up trying to support them to awaken, and you're in love with their potential. You're not actually in love with who they are. And you deserve the same space holding from someone else that you can give yourself and that you can give to them. You deserve that. Everyone take a deep breath. And then the third thing that starts to happen when you're turning your attention inward, when you're actually checking out what's going on in here, when you're listening to the internal as a way of interacting with the external, is that you have the conversations that most people aren't willing to have. You confront the truth that not many people are willing to confront, and you jump off the cliff that not many people are willing to jump off, because your pleasure, your joy, your alignment is worth it. And there's that choice that you said this morning. You make a power choice. And I want to make something so clear right now that is going to change your life. Close your eyes. If you want to come into your power, your full power, that means you've got to get out of the comfort zone of your conditioning. Close your eyes. Listen very fucking carefully. It is not meant to feel comfortable when you are evolving beyond your conditioning. It is not meant to feel comfortable to say no to the relationship that's not in full alignment. It is not meant to feel comfortable to get up on stage and finally just be the musician that you want to be. It's not meant to feel comfortable to start teaching when you've never taught before. It's not meant to feel comfortable to go up to someone that you're really attracted to when usually you don't do that. It's not meant to feel comfortable to let go of the job that gives you money and let go of your security and actually know that abundance is going to keep flowing in when you're relaxed. It's not meant to feel comfortable to transcend your conditioning. So I want you to remember that every day after this retreat, when you feel afraid and you don't do it because you feel afraid, you are supposed to feel afraid. If you're not feeling afraid, it's not it. When you're choosing to jump off the cliff, when you're choosing to make a true change, and you're not making that change because you need to be someone different than who you are making that change because you want to fucking be who you are. And you want to trust that flame in your heart, that flame in your soul that knows where you got to go, that knows what you need to do. And even when it's difficult, even when you're afraid that when you leave that relationship, there's not going to be someone else. When you leave that job, there's not going to be any money. When you leave the country, the next country is not going to be the one, even though you feel really called to it. Whatever it is, those big changes in our life. When you give up an addiction, it's not fucking meant to feel easy. It's meant to feel a bit difficult, a lot difficult for some. The more your addiction is an avoidance of who you are and a way to get away from hating who you are, the harder it will be to overcome it. The more your addiction is designed to protect you from feeling unsafe, the harder it will be to move beyond that addiction. So, everyone, place your hand on your solar plexus. And you know the thing that is no longer in alignment with your soul. Anything that doesn't feel right is not fucking worth it. Anything that you're doing because you're afraid of losing something else is not worth it. The truth of your soul is the only answer available to the soul that is committed to the full freedom and power of being who they truly are and of radiating that sun. So I want you to feel into what doesn't feel right in your life, what drains you more than it nourishes you. What drains your life force? What drains your power? Now, everything that drains our power also gives us some power. And the crazy fucking thing is that when those things give us power, it feels so much more exalted because it's draining our power so often that we just hang on to that glimpse of shine that it allows us, and we just hang on to it. So get real with yourself right now. What's draining your power more than it's giving you power? What's draining your life force more than it's giving your life force? And can you love yourself enough and trust yourself enough to ask yourself the question, does this feel like truth? Does this feel in alignment with my soul? Does this feel more easeful and life-giving than life-draining and difficult? Life is not meant to be a struggle. As a consistent felt sense, sometimes yes, but life is meant to be a celebration of this incarnation most of the time. That's what life is meant to be. That is why we're here, to experience the joy of sensation, of human connection, of shining our soul through this vessel, of expressing a legacy into the world that is changing the evolution of humankind in some way. Now, it doesn't have to be being a spiritual teacher. It can be cleaning toilets for all I care, as long as it is in alignment, as long as that is what lights you up. You want to know you want to know your soul. Your soul is that which is closely connected to the radiance and joy of the flame that is most connected to oneness and spirit. Whatever that is for you, it feels natural. What doesn't feel natural? Don't let it take as long as it took me for a relationship to feel natural. You shouldn't have to be fucking trying all the time. And thankfully, I've never had that with work. I've always done what feels natural. So the fact that you're here means that you're ready for that, because that's one of my biggest transmissions. Do what you're fucking here to do. Do what feels natural. Express like a motherfucker, no matter what anyone is thinking about that, because you feel it burning in your soul and you can't help. You can't help it because it's here and it's alive, and it's not about your audience. It's about you. It's about you being a channel for spirit and being here for what you came here to be through the essence of your soul. Anything that's in the way of that, you know what that is. How about we all make a power choice right now that even though it's going to be difficult, even though it's going to take so much commitment and courage, that we're ready to stop telling the same fucking story over and over again and give ourselves the same excuses over and over again. As the Dark Mother sitting here right now, I am here to tell you enough is enough of your fucking bullshit and your excuses. You deserve more than what you're doing to yourself. You deserve more than masochistic behavior that you know is draining your life force. that you know is taking power away from you. No crumbs of love, no money, no false sense of security, no false sense of safety is worth the selling of your fucking soul. None of it. No one is interested in your mask. Not really. No one is interested in what you're presenting. No one is interested in your bullshit. What people are interested in is the depths of you as you, your unique soul. Not what you can copy from someone else. Not that you can regurgitate. Not the creed or the dogma or the institution that you're a part of. Not the people pleaser, not the caretaker, not the wounded child that's telling the same story, or the victim. What people are really interested in is truth, is freedom, is love, and it is time, people, to live as love, to live as freedom, and to shed away anything that is not in alignment with that. So what is the thing for you? The biggest thing that's not in alignment that you've probably known for a long time? And can you have the courage right now to feel that sword from the first night? To feel that sword in your spine? As the healthy masculine that is willing to feel everything you're going to feel when you let go of the identity that you've clung so desperately onto. The sword of the healthy masculine that has boundaries for yourself, that is saying no to this. The sword of the healthy masculine that can face your fear of talking to that person, doing that thing, and not expect to be fearless, but feel the fucking fear of dying and do it anyway because you will need to die. How many people are living in the truth of their soul? It's because no one wants to die. No one wants to let go of the identity. You are so much more than the sum of your conditioning and who you think you should be. So I want you to feel where in your life you want cheering crowds. You want to please people. Just see yourself walking down this red carpet where people are cheering and they're so happy with you. Oh, you're so great, you're so wonderful, you're so this, you're so that, telling you all the things that were celebrated in you as a child. You're doing so well, you're achieving so much. You're so sweet, you're so happy, you're so kind. They're all clapping. You put something out there and everyone's so happy about it. No one's getting triggered, no one thinks you're a dick. No one's judging you because you're just so fucking great. Happy days. See that. Face the truth of that part of you that wants to make the right performance so that everyone's going to cheer. And then I want to take you somewhere else where not many of us live. And I dare say it's the enlightenment of authenticity, where we're walking in a dark forest, where we don't know how anything in that dark forest is responding or reacting, and we don't really care. We're in the void, we're in the darkness, we're in the space of unknown. We're willing to look at our shit, we're willing to feel it all, and we're willing to, without knowing how people are going to respond to us, show the fuck up for who we are anyway. And claim our space in the world and say, I am spirit, and I remember that I am spirit. And this is not even me when I'm really following my Dharma. This is spirit flowing through me. And I'm willing to say how I feel and be who I am, because a life lived not doing that is not worth it. And it's laughing at God, it's laughing at spirit, it's making a mockery for the power that lies within me. And in the dark forest, the crowds are hushed. And maybe some people aren't so happy with us, but we trust the integrity of our soul, because that is far more important than anyone else's values or viewpoints of integrity. And I choose to stand for what I believe in. I choose to stand for the truth of my being, my soul, my feelings, and follow that and navigate that. And the invitation is for you to choose that. To reveal the fire that is unique to you, and to trust the spirit that flows through you in that fire. And that fire will always, when it is truth, burn away what isn't truth, to those who are courageous enough to listen, and to those who are not, that is their journey. And you are courageous to listen as well, to not need them to be cheering you, that actually when someone gives you something, says something to you and you feel a trigger, you take a deep breath and you feel it as an opportunity to see truth, or to set a boundary, or to choose something else. It's always about you.
Thanks for listening to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. For more great free resources, in-person and online workshops, and our retreats, find us on Instagram and Facebook at Embodied Awakening Academy, or visit embodiedawakeningacademy.com.